Briefly getting back into this Ray Kurzweil stuff, I know you've read what the futurists and the transhumanists and the eugenicists say, and you're right. They just say, well, we're scientific, and we say that you have no right to the future, and we're going to get rid of you. But then if you talk about going after them physically, they freak out and yell and scream and call SWAT teams on you. So really, it's just a cold-blooded, as we say, and again, reptiles are cold-blooded, the reptilian brain. This is a cold-blooded idea and system, and they sit there like our opinions don't even matter. But that's a mind game. We do have force of will. We can stand up to them, and they're scared of us having that purpose and deciding we're not listening to their propaganda. We are warm-blooded. We do have red blood, and we're marching against their tyranny, whatever the cost, because humanity's future depends on it not being captured by a group of predatory Homo sapiens sapiens who are acting like vampires.
Yeah, the thing is, Alex, that what they're terrified of, more than anything else, is people becoming conscious beyond mind and beyond the computer level of perception. You can see in their own writings how they use phrases like, in my words, they're terrified of mavericks. Mavericks are people that could bring the whole thing down. And what are mavericks? Mavericks are people who are not programmed, who are not following secular ritual behavior and responses and reactions, but are actually conscious enough to act in ways that are different to the norm, ways that you can't call. And when it's so important that if you take the body to be in the center of this, on one side you've got the Illuminati families, and I would say what is behind them, trying to program the computer and trying to destabilize the computer, because all this stuff with fluoride and aspartame and all these other electrochemical sources of disruption, they're there to literally put viruses in the computer. And when you put viruses in your laptop computer, what happens? It stops working properly. It stops thinking straight. It stops operating to full potential. That's the idea. But when consciousness enters the body, it can overpower those programs, and it can overpower those effects on the body. I remember a story that illustrates what I'm talking about, when there was one of these Eastern mystic guys who was being used as part of an LSD experiment when they were experimenting in the 60s with LSD, and some professor was over trying to see the effect on people. And he gave this guy a dose of LSD, which should have blown his mind. Nothing happened. The guy smiled at him. He then doubled the dose eventually, and the guy still smiled at him, and there was no effects of the LSD on this guy whatsoever. Why? Because the guy was conscious, and through consciousness had overpowered the effect of the drug. And that's just an illustration of how, when we're conscious, we can overpower all these attacks on the body, and we can see through from a consciousness point of view, blatant means of manipulation. And that's what these guys are terrified of. And I mean terrified, because when humanity becomes conscious, their game is over. It's like we talked about last time in the movie with the grasshoppers, where he said about the ants, if they work out that there's loads of them and a few of us, there goes our way of life. When we become conscious, there goes our way of life. And that's why they have worked so constantly and incessantly through electrochemical means, through programming, through words and other means, through religious belief, extremism and dogma, to hold us in body consciousness. And that's what they're terrified of us breaking out of. And we're doing it, and that's why they're in a panic.
And David, just to simplify it, by poisoning the higher brain, the higher levels, which is a physiological fact, as people get poisoned and toxified more and more, they revert to the lower animal, reptile, saltwater crocodile brain. And just like a person, once they've had Alzheimer's, now people at 25 getting it from all the aluminum and mercury, everything reverts back to the level of a baby, and the old man's throwing his feces against the wall. I mean, that's a horrible parallel, but they want to keep us in that. And now you talk to the public, you watch sitcoms, and they talk slow. And the public, you see the public, you'll see somebody who's upright, and they'll kind of be at a store looking around at other people kind of freaked out. I was having this experience last night in 2 stores I went to. You could see people that were conscious. They'd be like, oh, you're conscious. And they were kind of all freaked out. And then the rest of the people are like, ooh. And it seems like it's accelerating right now, David. It was kind of freaking me out because I wasn't on acid, but it was almost like an acid trip watching, and I was seeing other people that were noticing. I mean, do you see the point I'm making?
Well, the thing is, there's a parting of the ways here. I mean, I'm seeing it more and more. There are those that are becoming more and more programmed as the programming increases, and there's those that are becoming less and less programmed as their consciousness increases. It's very much a parting of the ways. There's 2 very different types of human being emerging, which is becoming clearer and clearer by the week as the people become conscious and others get caught more and more in the programming and become less and less conscious. And so the difference between the 2 is going to be more and more obvious and demonstrable as we go along this route. See, the thing about the computer is it's vibrational on one level, so you can get into it vibrationally. It's electrochemical on another level, so you can get into it electrochemically. It's electromagnetic on another level, you get into it electromagnetically. And you can get into it through words. And basically, it's a war on the human body computer receiver transmission system. And it's much like a stage hypnotist who is planting beliefs into the stooges on the stage. And a belief is like a computer program. It's like a piece of software because it affects...
It's a perception. We believe that the Federal Reserve isn't private, even though it is. So people think it's the government, and people will kill each other for $1,000, and they're just making it zeros and ones on a computer. It's an illusion. It's a spell.
Yeah, it's a spell. Yeah, I mean, one of the areas of my talks is breaking the spell, and the key point I want to make here is it's not so much the reality. It's how we perceive reality. That's the interface that they want to manipulate. I mean, we live in an infinite reality. But what they want to do is so program the receiver transmitter that reads reality in this 5-sense world.
That it's blind.
So that it reads reality to fit their agenda. It's not reality. It's the way we read it they want to manipulate. And basically, you can have a hypnotist on a stage and he'll get someone to eat an apple, eat a potato, but taste an apple. And all he's doing is putting a belief, a program, a software into the brain so that when the electrical signal from the tongue with the information about the potato hits the brain, it doesn't read it as a potato. It reads it as an apple, which is what it has been programmed to do. It's breaking into that decoding system of the brain, and they're doing that, Alex, on multiple levels.
And that's what the New World Order is a mass hypnotist, as you're saying. And more I realize the cops, the government people, the New World Order people, you talk to a lot of them, and they are some of the blindest folks out there, and they're obsessive compulsive. They're obsessed with, like you said, hierarchical systems, and they are completely reduced down to almost nothing, only getting that tiny bit of not even small spectrum of reality, false reality, fed into them, and then they arrange themselves in guilds. They're the delusional crazy people, because to me, crazy is denying what the full spectrum of reality is, telling us we're crazy, and they arrange themselves together above us.
That is a very, very important point, because what happens is that these training programs for people in uniform, for government administrators, and all the people that administer or law enforce the system, these training programs are designed to program these people to read reality as the system wants, which is to read the system's version of reality. There's an organization in this country, I'm sure you'll know of a number in America, called Common Purpose. Common Purpose started out with a person who worked from the office of the Deputy Prime Minister under Tony Blair.
It's the local non-governmental, and then the government gives them all the power, and it really is the government to run every county, every city, yeah.
Yeah, what they're doing, what Common Purpose are doing, and Common Purpose means common reality. Common Purpose are going around and local government, police, health services, all these institutions of the state are sending their people to these training programs at vast expense to the taxpayer to be programmed through classic mind manipulation techniques that they use and group intimidation techniques to get people to see reality in a common way. That's what it's really about. And then they go back and they run their councils and the police and everything else in ways that to anyone who's conscious, it's like you were talking about earlier in the supermarket, anyone who's conscious is looking at this and going, what possibly is going on in your head that you can see this situation is justified? But they do, because that's the way they're reading reality. They're automatons, and that's what these training programs are there to do. And these hypnotic techniques, much more advanced than you see in the stage shows, are what these people are trained to do.
Well, let me expand on that.
These people.
Let me expand. And we're going to go to calls. They have made it now where the police follow ridiculous orders